Yes. So please don't forget to turn your cameras on. Can you guys hear me? Hello, can you hear me? No, can you guys hear me?
It sounds like a little interference in the
Okay,
background.
Yes. So today we were supposed to have class, but we're gonna making up for that class that we didn't finish on Friday the 23rd. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was a Friday and my connection was off. So we had to cut the class. I think we were halfway through and we have to finish the class, right? So today we're gonna be making up for that class that we didn't have on that Friday, or that like interrupted class we had. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. Now, what we're gonna be doing this week in general is looking at the reading section, now that we're done with the writing section. But before we start looking at the reading section, the first thing that we need to see is obviously the format of the reading. Now, in the reading section, you guys will be reading some texts, reading some passages, academic passages, and then you'll have to answer some questions on those passages. So you will have to read a text and answer 10 questions per text related to that text, about the text. Okay? Now, as you already know, the TOEFL format is going to be changing this July the 23rd, right? July the 26th, sorry. So we have to be able to look at the two different formats that we have. The current format, the one that you guys can take right now, and the new format, which is going to be starting on July the 26th. So in the current TOEFL test, you guys can have 3 to 4 reading passages. We don't know exactly how many of these passages you will have in the reading section in the current test, because it depends on whether you get the extra question in the reading or not. But basically, you can have 3 or 4 reading passages in the current test. Each passage contains 10 questions, and depending on the number of passages, you can have 54 or 72 minutes. So that means that if you have 3 reading passages, you get 54 minutes. And if you have 4 passages, you get 72 minutes. Now, in general, you guys have 18 minutes per passage, and that's something that's never going to change. 18 minutes per passage, per reading passage. Now, remember that the new TOEFL format is shortened. So in the reading section, you won't have 3 or 4 anymore. If you take the test after July the 26th, you will only have 2 reading passages. Unlike if you take the test now. Each passage is still going to have 10 questions, and you will still have 18 minutes per passage. That means that if you have 2 reading passages, then you'll be having 36 minutes in total for the entire reading section. Okay, guys? So this is basically it. Remember, we have 2 formats. The current format that's going to be available until July the 26th, and the new format that's going to be starting July the 26th. If you take the test now these days, before July the 26th, then in the reading section, you will have 3 to 4 reading passages and 10 questions each passage, 18 minutes per passage. But if you take the test after July the 26th, you will only have 2 reading passages, and everything else is the same, 10 questions each, 18 minutes per passage. Okay, guys? So do you have any questions so far? Everything clear? Okay. Now, the most important thing to see in the reading section is to look at the question types. And there hasn't been any changes done to the question types. That means that no matter when you take the test, you will still have the same type of questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a brief look at every question type, and we're going to go one by one during this week. Let's see. Okay. So this chart here shows the frequency of each question type in the reading section. So there are 10 different questions that you can find in the reading section. 10 different questions. We have vocabulary questions, detailed questions, except type of question, insert text, inference, function. We're gonna be learning about each one of these. But in total, we have 10 of them. Now, the first thing that we need to say is that the ones that are more frequent, the ones that you will see the most, are basically vocabulary questions and detailed questions. So those are usually the ones that appear the most. You gotta be really ready for answering them. Now, the other ones are important because you have one or two or three maybe in the entire set, but they are not as frequent as vocabulary and detail. And finally, the last question, summary or category question, that's worth a little bit more than the other questions. So if we're talking about the importance of each question, then we could say that the vocabulary, detail, and summary questions are the most important ones. Okay, guys? However, we're going to be looking at all of them, and we're going to be answering some samples as well as we go. Okay, guys? So any questions before we start then? Okay, guys, that's great. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna be working with this practice set which is official from the ETS. You can find it in the ETS website. And it's always better to practice using official material, right? That's what we're gonna be practicing with this specific passage. So I'm going to send you guys the text that we have to read in our Word doc so that you can read it at your own pace as well. And you don't have to be waiting for me to scroll down or something. So, okay. Now, usually one of the questions that I get asked the most is what do I do in the reading section? Because in the reading section, first thing, you will get the entire passage, only the passage. So the question is usually, so should I read the passage or should I skip and go directly to the questions? That's usually the question that I get asked the most. Now, my best advice for you guys is gonna be read, but don't read carefully. Don't make a thorough read of this text. What you guys have to do is scan the text. I think that's a more appropriate word rather than read. So your job here is to very quickly look at the elements in the text, try to scan the text paragraph by paragraph. And to be honest, the best thing you guys can do is try to understand the main ideas from each paragraph. That means try not to be paying attention to details, to small facts, anything that's not a big idea. What I have found, like with all the years that I've been practicing and doing this, is if you guys read the first sentences, like the first or the second sentence of each paragraph, then you would usually have the main idea there in the first sentences. So what I personally did when I was taking and preparing for the TOEFL test is I used to read only the first sentences. So I would read maybe the first. If I didn't find the main idea there, I would read the second sentence of each paragraph. I would do the same for the second paragraph, read only the first sentences. I do the same for the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth. And I used to spend about 2 minutes reading or scanning the text. That's what I'm gonna ask you guys to do. Just please scan the text. I'm gonna share with you the link to the document. And I'm gonna ask you, and I'm gonna give you guys 2 minutes or 3 minutes for you to read the text. Okay, and then we will be talking about it. So please open the link. Begin reading. Okay, guys. Are you done reading and scanning the text? So let's talk what it was about. So first thing that I would, another thing that I could tell you guys is always make sure that you read the title. The title usually gives you a great idea of what the entire text is about, the main idea. So in this case, it says the rise of Teotihuacan, right? So it's probably going to be about the development of this Teotihuacan, right? We don't know yet what it is, but we know that it's about the rise, the development, the growth of Teotihuacan. It's always good to associate it with maybe easier synonyms. Now, as I was telling you before, the best thing you guys can do is try to look for the main idea in each paragraph. So the first paragraph is usually going to be an introduction, and that's exactly what you have here. You have a short introduction. Basically telling what the Teotihuacan is, right? Basically describing, giving a little bit of context as to what the Teotihuacan is, and we know that it's a city, right? And we have a few details, which now, what is the second paragraph about? Can anybody tell me?
It's about the geographic. It's where the Tiwanakan valley was, and also about the obsidian rock, maybe, and the potential that they have in the irrigations.
Okay, could be, but I am not sure. I mean,
It's like, sorry, it's like the development of the place from the obsidian rock that was really in this part of Mexico. Yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, as you said, it's about the development of this place. It tries to show or enlist the factors that influenced the development of the place, right? The factors that led to the development of Teotihuacan. And among the factors are what you mentioned. So maybe the obsidian, the irrigation, and everything else that you mentioned. So all of that contributed to the development of Teotihuacan. So this paragraph here is just showing the factors that influence the development of the city. Now, what is the third paragraph about?
Well, in the third paragraph, it's about like the Teotihuacan also share like similar places with another like coexisting centers, but these centers were covered by lava in some point. So they get more like they don't have any enemies.
Rival.
No, it's not enemies, but well, I don't know.
Okay. Competitors, maybe? Rivals?
Competitors, yeah.
Okay, good. I love that. So yes, it's exactly what you said. So the third paragraph talks about the fact that, well, they were competing against other cities, but one of the cities, the one that was like maybe its main rival, was eliminated, right, because of the volcanic eruption, and that made Teotihuacan more powerful. So that was another factor that led to the development of the rise of Teotihuacan, right? This factor is at least circumstantially implicated in Teotihuacan's rise. What about the fourth paragraph? What is it about?
Well, in this paragraph, it's talk about like about the obsidian, how powerful it's become.
Okay.
Like,
All right. Yes, perfect. So yeah, the fourth paragraph talks about the obsidian and how, well, because obsidian was part of Teotihuacan's natural resources, right? So how obsidian, they say, gave the city a competitive edge over its neighbors. So it focuses on Teotihuacan's natural resources and how those help the city be competitive. So as I was telling you, right, if you read the first sentences of each paragraph, then you have an idea of what it's about. So for example, in the second paragraph, they say, how did this tremendous development take place and why did it happen in the Teotihuacan Valley? Among the main factors are, so you already know by reading this, that this is about the factors that answer to the development of Teotihuacan. In the third case is the same, right? You just read the first sentence. It says the last factor is at least circumstantially implicating the Teotihuacan's rise. This last factor has to do with volcanic eruptions, right? Which is mentioned before. Same thing in the fourth paragraph. They say it seems likely that the Teotihuacan's natural resources, along with the city elite's ability to recognize their potential, give the city a competitive edge over its neighbors. So you know that it's about natural resources, how it made them competitive. What about the fifth paragraph? What is it about?
That because of the obsidian, their population grow, because they were like other people were attracted to come to this city because of the, I don't know, people, they were like healthy living life. I don't know.
Okay, yes, exactly, Sophia. Perfect. So yeah, this is about how the trading obsidian attracted immigrants from other parts, and it helped population growth of Teotihuacan. And finally, the sixth and final paragraph, what is it about? What does it talk?
Okay, so the last paragraph, it's about like they need more people to work in the with this mineral, so they will need more manufacture tools and additional trades. So
Okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
they grow like a power.
All right. Yes, that's right. So yes, I mean, as you said, the obsidian led to attracting more people, which led to maybe uh, growing the economy, and that led to improving the wealth. So basically, in this last paragraph, they talked about how every factor, everything was related, right? So the obsidian industry was related to population growth. Population growth was related somehow to religion, and religion was related to the economy. The economy was related to the wealth and to the power of the Teotihuacan. So again, if you read the first sentence, then you already have that idea. It says, the picture of Teotihuacan is a classic picture of positive feedback among obsidian mining and working, trade, population growth, irrigation, and energy stores. Positive feedback means un ciclo positivo de retroalimentación, right? So everything was having an impact on everything, and everything was influencing positively the other factor. Everything was related, and everything made Teotihuacan a powerful and wealthy city. So that's what we have. And again, I stand by my word. The best thing you guys can do to save time, because remember that you have 18 minutes per passage. So you have 18 minutes to read the text and to answer the 10 questions that you will have for this text, which is not a lot of time. So what you need to do is save as much time as you can by trying to avoid reading carefully. As I was telling you before, what you could do is read the title, scan the paragraphs, maybe read the first sentences of each paragraph to have an idea of what each paragraph is about, and that's it. You shouldn't be spending more than 2 to 3 minutes here, because otherwise you're going to run out of time for when you're answering the question. Is this okay so far, though? Any questions?
No, it's okay.
Okay, perfect. So now what we're going to do is answer the questions. We're going to start looking at the question types that we have. The first question type we're going to look at is going to be the detailed questions. And in order to see that, we're going to be answering question number 5, which is a detailed question. But we're going to be using my presentation because I have everything here. So let's start with detailed questions. These are also called factual questions. Now, I honestly really like these questions because they are really direct. What you guys have to do for these questions is they will be asking you for specific information, for specific detailed information in the text. That's why they are called detailed or factual, right? Because they ask you for details for facts. Now, this information that you guys need to find, the information they're going to be asking you about, you need to remember that it's going to be something that will be directly said, directly mentioned in the text. You don't have to do much thinking, you just have to find the information. The information will be there. Somehow it will be there. Your job is to find that information. So obviously, in order to find it, you have to first understand the question well, and you also have to understand the text well as well. Now it's a high frequency question. Remember that you get a lot of these questions, and we will see the strategies to answer this specific type. So, Ale, please, could you read question number 5 that's here on my screen? Are you there, Ale? So maybe Sophia, could you please read it?
Sure. Which of the following allowed Teotihuacan to have a competitive edge over its neighbors?
Okay, thank you so much. So the strategy for this question, well, I'm not gonna tell you the strategy yet. I'm gonna give you some time for you to try to answer the question. But the only thing that I will say is please don't read the options yet. So first, the only tip that I'm gonna give you right now is only read the question, look for the answer, and then you can read the options, but don't read the options in the beginning. So I will give you guys 1 or 2 minutes to try to answer this question. Tell me what you think, we will discuss. So let me know what you think. Okay, so what do you think? What would be the answer to this question? Medias?
Letter D.
Letter D, okay. Scarce natural resources, okay. Sophia, what do you think?
Yes, it's the same D.
Okay, good. So now let's see. What do you do for this question? First thing, we read the question, obviously, and we try to understand what they really ask, because sometimes it can be phrased a little bit complicated. In this case, I say which of the following, that means what allowed Teotihuacan to have a competitive edge over its neighbors. Okay, we understand the question. So what allowed Teotihuacan to be competitive, right, among its neighbors, to be better than its neighbors, right? What gave Teotihuacan this competitiveness? That's the question. Now, second thing that we do after understanding well the question is look for the keywords in the question. In the question, there are always going to be some keywords that contain the essential information that we need. So in this case, we're looking for competitiveness, right? We're looking for what gave Teotihuacan a competitive edge for its neighbors. So in this case, it's pretty easy to find the keywords because we have a quote, right? It's quoted, it's in quotation marks. But you won't always have that. So you just have to find the most important words. In this case, I would say competitive, maybe neighbors to Teotihuacan. Those are the keywords. And what you guys have to do now is look for those keywords in the text, in the paragraph. Now, the thing is, you won't always have the same exact words. Sometimes you may have synonyms. So maybe instead of having competitive edge, you have an advantage, right? Maybe it's the same. What allowed Teotihuacan to have an advantage over its neighbors? So you may have synonyms of the word instead of the word itself. In this case, as I was telling you, it's pretty easy because it's a quote. So we find the keywords here, right? It's a quote. Now, this is my best advice, and this is usually the mistake that most students make. When you have detailed questions, they are really detailed, and they're going to be asking you about one or at most two sentences of the text. You never have to summarize. So this is not a summary question. That means that you will never have to read the entire paragraph to answer these questions. You just have to read one or two sentences that are close to the keywords, and you will know that the answer is there. But you are never going to have to summarize everything, so you don't have to read everything. Now, in this case, we will obviously start reading the sentence that contains the keywords. Now, it says, it seems likely that Teotihuacan's natural resources, along with the city elite's ability to recognize their potential, gave the city a competitive edge over its neighbors. The valley, like many other places in Mexican and Guatemalan highlands, was rich in obsidian. Okay, let's stop there. So I don't know if you guys noticed this, but we have gave the city a competitive edge. Do you think that allowing the city to have a competitive edge is the same as giving the city a competitive edge? Is it close enough?
Yes.
Yes.
Right? So, and in other words, the question is, which of the following gave the city a competitive edge? So we already have the answer. Now, what gave the city a competitive edge? According to the text, it's Teotihuacan's natural resources, along with, which means and, the city elite's ability to recognize their potential. This is what gave the city a competitive edge. That's where I would stop reading. And now that you know the answer, what gave the city a competitive edge? Their natural resources and the city elite's ability to recognize their potential. You have the answer. Now you can start reading the options, and you need to start comparing the options to the answer that you already have. Unfortunately for us, usually we won't have an option that says Teotihuacan's natural resources along with the city elite's ability to recognize their potential. Unfortunately for us, we don't have that. But what we do have is a paraphrase of that. We have the same idea, but in different words. So you need to paraphrase this sentence, paraphrase this idea into one of these options. One of these options is expressing the same idea, natural resources and the city and its ability to recognize the potential. So we just gotta look for that option. Now you guys said option D. Now, it is true that option D talks about their natural resources, right? It says scarce natural resources in nearby areas such as those located in, okay. So let's analyze option D. According to option D, what allowed the city to have this competitive edge was their natural resources. That's true, Yes, it is true, right? Their natural resources allow the city to have a competitive edge. However, was it only their natural resources that allow the city to have a competitive edge? What about the city elite's ability to recognize their potential? We don't know, right? That's not mentioned in option D. So that's already raising a flag in there. But let's continue analyzing option D. If we're going to select option D, not only do we have to check that the answer contains something that we want, but everything has to be correct. Everything has to be true. Because if not, then this is false information. Now they say that what allowed the city to have a competitive edge was scarce natural resources. Now, were they really scarce? Do they say that?
No.
No, right? Actually, they say that they were rich in obsidian. So they were rich in terms of natural resources, right? They weren't scarce. So this is false. Now we would also have to check the rest, right? Were they really located in what are now the Guatemalan and Mexican highlands? We would have to check that. But it's enough that you have something that's not true for this option to not be the one. We can eliminate option D because it has false information and it's missing another important part of the answer. Let's see if there's another one that's better than option D. Now, option C says knowledge derived directly from the Olmecs about the art of toolmaking. Well, that has nothing to do with our answer, right? Natural resources.
Maybe A.
Maybe A. Okay, good. We will see. Probably. So option D is usually a common trap in the TOEFL reading. Another thing that you need to be good at is identifying traps. There are very common traps in the TOEFL reading. One of them is in the options, you will always have an option that contains phrases or words that you have read in the passage. So this is usually what's called the familiar option. And this is really there to trick your brain into choosing that option because it sounds familiar to you. So probably if you read the text, you know that I don't know if they talked about tool making, did they? I don't know if they talked about that, but they talk about the omics, right? So maybe if you feel like, oh, yeah, they mentioned the omics, you're going to choose it. But you need to compare it to what your answer is, because remember that by the time that you start reading the options, you already have an answer in mind. So in this case, it has nothing to do with natural resources. It's not. Now, option B seems tempting because it contains the word elite. And we know that our answer contains the word elite as well. Same thing as for option D that contains scarce natural resources, right? But we would have to analyze it as well. So it says the presence of a highly stable elite class. Okay? What our answer says is the elite's ability to recognize their potential. So we don't really know if this elite class was stable or not. And it's not their presence that made the Tihuacana competitive, that gave the Tihuacana competitive edge. It was their ability to recognize their potential. So we have two things that are going to make us eliminate option B. First, it's not related. It's not the presence. It's their ability to recognize their potential. And second, what about their natural resource? That's important as well, right? So it's missing this information. So it's not B. By elimination, you guys can know that it's option A. But if we analyze it, can you guys tell me why it's option A without considering the other options? Why would you choose option A?
Because it say like they were like, no sé cómo explicarlo, la verdad. Well exploited and readily, como que estaban como que bien explotados sus recursos y también estaban preparados para eso, no sé, algo así.
Yeah, yes, I guess that's correct. So a well-exploited and readily available commodity. First of all, commodity doesn't mean comodidad, right? Although it looks like that, it doesn't mean comodidad. What does commodity means?
I'm guessing, but I think it's like something with community, with
No,
people, or not?
no, not really. Commodity. Ale, do you know?
It's not like potential or something like that.
Yes, kind of. Commodity basically is your wealth. So the goods that you have, the resources that you possess, basically commodity is a synonym of the word resources, right? So as Sophia was saying, well exploited means that the resources were well exploited. Now, if you think about it, that is related to the second part, right? The city ability to recognize their potential. The potential of what? The potential of the resources, right? So they recognized their potential of the resources they had and they exploited them well. But not only that, they had a readily available commodity. Readily available means it was available from the beginning, right? It was something that they had from the moment they established themselves in this valley. This commodity was ready for them to use. So that means natural, right? It's not something that they created. It's not something that they possess, but I'm sorry, they produce. It's not something that they actually made, right? It's something that they had from the beginning. So it was a readily available, it was a natural commodity, a natural resource, and they exploited them well, right? Because the city had the ability to recognize the potential of the resources and exploited them well. So this is what gave the Teotihuacan a competitive edge over its neighbors. Their resources, their natural resources, and the ability they had to exploit the potential of the resources, right? So this is the correct answer. As you are seeing, it has nothing to do, it doesn't even contain one word from the text, right? Which is tricky. So sometimes, obviously, this is not always going to be the in your answer, you may have some words from the text. But the important thing is that the idea is preserved, that it has the same idea as what your answer is. But in order for you to do this, you already have to have the answer beforehand. Right? So, what did we do? First, we read the question, we look for the keywords in the question, we find those keywords in the text, then we read around the keywords until we find the answer, right? We have find the answer with the from the text, and then we look at the options and we find the closest one to the answer that we already have. Is that okay? Do you guys have any questions about this one?
We just look for the answer really nearly from the keywords, right? As you said, not all the text, but just take attention to the first or the sentences that are next to the keywords.
Exactly. Right. You will know. Maybe you won't find the answer there, but if you find the answer around the keywords, then stop reading. If you don't find the answer really, it will be something really rare because most of the time, like 95% of the time, the answer is close to the keywords. But maybe the keywords are repeated in different parts of the text. That could happen as well. Maybe you have competitive edge here and you have another competitive edge here. So in that case, you will have to read around these keywords and around here as well. But you have to be able to find the answer first, right? If you find the answer, gave the city allow the city to have, then you know it's here, then you should stop reading because the answer won't contain any details mentioned after that. So yes. Any other question? Okay, guys, good. So time for you to practice. You guys are gonna do another one of the same type, detailed question. It's the same text, so the same paragraph actually. So I'm gonna give you guys 1 more minute to answer this question. So what do you guys think? Which option?
Letter D.
Okay. Do you agree, Sophia?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, totally. The question says, according to paragraph 4, what has recent research and obsidian tools found at Olmec sites shown? So the keywords, research, obsidian tools maybe, Olmec sites, right? We look for those keywords, they are here, research, obsidian tools. So it says, moreover, recent research on obsidian tools found at Olmec sites has shown that. So it's pretty obvious, right? The question is, what has this research shown? And in the text we have research, this research has shown that. So we know that what comes after that has to be the answer. It has shown that some of the obsidian obtained by the Olmecs originated near Teotihuacan. So that's our answer. Now we start reading the options aggressively until we get to the right one, the one that's closest to what we already have. And it's D. Some of the obsidian obtained, used by the Olmecs, so obtained and used maybe, originated near, came from, it's the same, originated, came from, the area around Teotihuacan. It's the same as near Teotihuacan, right? The area around, the area near Teotihuacan. It's exactly the same. So it is option D. Is it okay? Any questions about this question type?
No.
Okay, guys, great. So I think we're gonna leave it here. As I was telling you, we're just making up for that class that we didn't get to finish on that Friday. Because remember that we usually don't have classes on Mondays. We're gonna continue tomorrow looking at other question types. I know that we took our time for this question, but it's because, as I was telling you, this is one of the most important questions in the TOEFL reading. It's one of the most common ones, so we need to practice as much as we can. And tomorrow we'll be looking at other types as well, continuing with the same text, okay, so that you don't get lost. But do you guys have any questions about what we did today before we go? Everything clear?
Yes.
Okay, guys, awesome. Then please, before you go, don't forget to complete today's surveys. Today's survey, we just have one. And I will be seeing you all tomorrow.
Okay, bye, Andrea.
Bye-bye.